Well, hey man, I was want to start off. I loved hearing you speak at the conference. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are. I lost you for a second.
Oh, okay. I was saying I loved hearing you speak at the conference, man. You basically gave us a sermon.
Well, that's kind of hey, that's kind of what I do. I can't separate myself from that, and it doesn't separate itself from me. It kind of goes where I go.
Sure. No, I understand. Yeah, me and several of my friends came from when I went to ministry college and stuff together, and we were like, man, I feel like we're back at a Bible conference. So it was nice, man. No, it was
Well,
you
thank
did
you.
a great job. It's obvious you speak often, so no, it was great. Well, I I, I guess starting off, we always like to hear just a little bit, real quick. How'd you get into the industry, and how'd you get into all this? Where are you coming from?
Well, I was in the industry several years ago, back in the early 2000s. Except back then, I was on the Medicare side, doing
Okay.
Medicare supplements, and I did quite a bit of life, final expense life, also back then. But back then, we built an agency. After about 2.5 years, we built an agency, and we was a captive. I was captive then, and we had the number one agency with the company that we was with. And for about 6 or 7 years, just built that agency, and like I said, we reached number one in the nation. So I seen some
Wow.
success, nothing like what we're seeing here, but seen some success over there. And after about 8 years of being there, that was when I left the business, not because of anything bad, but I went into the mission field. So for the next 10 years, I was in the mission field, traveling all over the world, India, Africa, Haiti, building churches, building orphanages, ministering the gospel all over the world. And I didn't have to ask for one dime. I didn't have to do any fundraisers. The money that I made in the insurance business in that 8 years, that's what I lived on the next 10 years, and traveled all over the world ministering. And then when I started running out of money, that money started running low. I talked to my wife and I said, it's time to get back into the insurance business, and come across Family First Life. And here we've been here just over a year now.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. I didn't know you were going to say that. That's honestly, I'm not trying to, I don't know how it's going to sound, but that's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
yeah, that's my goal right now. Me and actually some friends just from all went to college together, just started an orphanage in West Africa with the team of missionaries that I served with when I was getting my master's degree. And that's kind of like the long term goal for me is
Yeah, yeah, it is.
so that's beautiful. That's awesome, man. So
It
how'd you
is.
so how'd you get into hear about Family First Life? How'd you get into this? Obviously, that's a pretty hard transition from, I would think, from health to life, just the way that you're doing it, or maybe not. You tell me.
Yeah, we did a lot of final expense when I was with the company before, except for it was kind of opposite. Back in those days, the early 2000s, we didn't have Facebook leads, we didn't have anything like that. So the only thing that we could really break down was the demographics of how old somebody was by zip code or by county. So we would go in and buy phone list. It was just a list of people 64 and a half to basically age 80 or 85. And the only thing that did was filter out anybody that wasn't within those parameters of 64 and a half to 80 or 85. And so it was
Mm,
just like, then we'd just get that list, and you talking about cold calling. We just cold call people, and we'd talk them
right.
into letting us come. And yeah, we'd talk them into letting us come and talk to them about their Medicare supplement. We was doing all Medicare supplements then. And so we'd naturally do a lot of final expense while we was in the house. So the way that I found Family First Life was I was actually fixing to go to work for a company doing Medicare Advantage and Medicare supplements and stuff again. But I was really looking for a company that didn't make you sign a contract where you was vested from day one. I didn't want any carrier paying me my commissions. I wanted my commissions to come directly from I didn't want any agency paying my commissions. I wanted my commissions to come directly from the carrier themselves. I didn't want to be on an LOA. So I found one company that had everything but one of those. And so actually, I was talking to a guy that was going to come to work with me over there because he knew what I'd done in the insurance business before, how, it just really been good to me. And he was telling me, he said, Kevin, he said, I come across this company the other day called Family First Life. He said, I don't know a lot about the business. He said, why don't you check it out and tell me what you think? So I checked it out, watched a few videos by Sean, kind of messed around, looking around on the internet and stuff about it. And I said, well, if this is what they say it is, this is the way to go. And so that was when we started contracting. And actually, that guy was Chase Tackett, who's one of my agents now. And me and him both made the Hall of Fame last year.
Wow,
So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
so that was how we come across FFL and hadn't looked back since.
Very good, very good. So obviously it sounds like you're doing a lot of heavy cold calling, Medicare supplement, also final expense. How was it coming over into this space and then buying leads? And did you hit the ground running because you had so much experience, or was it a gradual thing? Talk to us about first few months with us.
One thing I know, one thing I've learned is if I got a strong, what I know about me is knowing what I'm not good at, you know. So coming into this business after watching the videos, after watching Sean, after watching several videos on YouTube and stuff, Matt Smith, Paul McLean, all of those. Number one, I had to determine in myself that I knew nothing, because the way that they was doing it over here was different than the way we was doing it, 10 or 12 years before that.
Wow, that's so good.
So I just really wiped my slate clean, and I pretended like I knew absolutely nothing. I threw out everything I thought I knew. And when I'd heard about Facebook leads, Facebook leads, I was like, these people actually, fill out the information and answer some questions and want you to call them. So I went through and I'll tell you what, during that process of me getting my license, for the next, I guess it took back then in the state of Texas was running real slow. This was probably October, November of 2019. It was taking 4, 5, 6 weeks to get them in. And so I just completely inundated myself with the videos. I watched everything I could on phone calls. I watched everything I could that Paul McLean, 8 Steps to a Final Expense presentation. I had that thing memorized. So I went in just like I knew absolutely nothing, and threw everything that I thought I knew, my ideas, I threw everything out the window and basically started from scratch. So my first time to buy leads, and I only had Americo. I didn't have AIG yet. The first company I got approved with was Americo. Took forever for me to get Mutual of Omaha, John Hancock, AIG. We didn't have Prosperity at that time. So the only company I had was Americo. So as soon as I got Americo, I bought $1,000. I had $1,000 left. I bought $1,000 worth of leads. I bought Facebook Game Time leads. I think I bought, if I remember right, I bought like 500 on Monday or on Sunday, and I bought 500 on Wednesday or Thursday, $500 worth at the beginning of the week and $500 worth at the middle part of the week. And my first week out in the field, that $1,000, I turned it into $6,000 and never looked back.
Wow,
that's $6,000 my first week.
What you said was so powerful, and it's so funny just thinking it, because obviously you came from what sounds like a very successful career in insurance, even in the final expense space. Yeah. And still, even with that success experience, you just acknowledge like, hey, like this is for the most part new to me. Like I'm gonna have to. You didn't let yourself get in the way, which is so funny, because the number one complaint I have about people who recruit a lot and why they don't like people with insurance experience is because you got people with a lot of bad habits, or even people that are just from the sales space, maybe not even insurance, but they just have in their own head, like, this is going to work this way. I know how to do it. No one can tell me anything, with, I'm sure, way less success than you yourself experienced, and are just completely unteachable. I mean, it's no wonder you hit the ground running, and hit Hall of Fame. That's awesome. So was 2020, was that your first full year?
Yes, sir. I wrote in, let's see, I think my first full month was December of 2019. And in December of 2000, and I was gone for about 10 days, because also in December, that was before coronavirus and everything. So we was also doing about 200 services a year inside prison. So I was gone on weekends all the way up until March of when they shut the prisons down. But so we was gone a lot of times on Saturdays doing services, 2, 3, 4 services inside prison. So I never ran a Saturday in December. And then also I was out of town a week in December. So my first actual full month of running in December of 2019, that was when I wrote 32,000 my first month. And then in January, I wrote 43,000 straight final expense, no mortgage protection or anything. And
Wow.
and that was what I did. There's two things I believe. The word teaches us that pride comes before man's fall. And then the word also teaches us is that a man ought not think more of himself than he should, lest he shall stumble and fall also. So when I come into this, and I still do today, is I pretend, I know nothing. I know nothing. If you got something you can show me, if you got something that works better, if you got something, I still train on videos, I still watch, I still go in and listen. And that's it, because we can always sharpen our sword no matter where we're at. And the moment we think that we don't need teaching, the moment that we think we don't need training, the moment we think that we don't need help, that's when a lot of times people start going backwards instead of growing forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know it's funny, I know a lot of new people, they might have heard that and they might have been like, oh, come on, get to the good stuff. But what you just said right there is so key. It's such a strong mentality thing that will give you success in any industry, but especially this industry. Just being teachable, just listening, just be constantly sharpening yourself. So very, very good. Well, awesome. So
Yeah,
the 30,000 part-time really kind of in December, and then 40,000 first
yeah.
full-time month, Hall of Fame, focusing a lot on final expense. Sounds like now you're doing a bit more mortgage. What is,
Yes.
so talk to me about your first few months. Obviously you starting heavy final expense. I'm sure you learned a lot of few things after that initial, success. What are things for people that are, I know we have a mix on here of people that are pretty new. Some people are out there right and doing well in their first couple months, just like you did. What are some things that you learned during those times that really help you take it to the next level?
Number one thing I did on final expense is, I live about an hour outside of Dallas, Fort Worth. Now, I'm an old country boy. I grew up chasing horses and cows my whole life, and so I'm not afraid to travel. I'm not afraid. Texas is a big state, so so what I did in January was I started driving out to Lubbock, and I worked Lubbock that whole month, Lubbock, Texas, which is about 6 hours from me. And so I just got the mentality to where if I'm gonna hit these numbers and do it, I went out to some areas in Texas. We got areas that you got large cities, but they're just out by themselves. So a lot of times I feel like I don't have any proof on this, but I feel like that sometimes that those areas just work out a little bit better. So I started buying leads out in Lubbock, Texas, and I drive out there. I drive to Lubbock. I'd leave I'd set my appointments on Monday morning. I'd jump in my vehicle about 2 or 3 o'clock on Monday afternoon. I'd drive 6 hours to Lubbock, Texas. I'd run Tuesday and Wednesday, 12 and 16 appointments. Then I'd drive back home because we do a church service on Thursday night. I'd set my appointments Thursday morning, preach Thursday night, leave Thursday night after service, drive back out to Lubbock and be at my first appointment by 9 a.m. Friday morning, run Friday and Saturday, then get back home in order for our church service on Sunday. So that was just how we did it, man. I read on there, I adopted the mentality of two things: just to work, just to work. And I sat down and had to talk with my wife, and I think it's very, very important in this business that we got to have the support of our spouse. And I sat down and had to talk with my wife and said, look, if we want to get to where we want to be, this is the price that we're going to have to pay. Not that I'm going to have to pay, not that she's going to have to pay, but that we're going to have to pay. And I had that talk with my wife. I had that talk with my kids, and she was 100% behind it. And having that support of knowing that your wife's not, not against what you're doing, I believe that makes all the difference in the world. So I'm not afraid to travel trips. I do travel trips still to this day. At least every other week, I'm driving down to Galveston, Texas. I'm driving out to Lubbock, Texas. I'm driving somewhere, staying overnight and working. And then I didn't start implementing mortgage protection probably until about, I'd say probably June of 2020, June, somewhere in there. I'm just kind of a one-track mind. And I think I heard it was either Matt Smith or maybe Eric Anthony. I don't remember what it was. But I heard one of them say, "Hey, Kevin, just learn this first, stick with it, and then once you get that down, then move to something else." So I just did it. I just learned the final expense side. I wanted to learn the products. I wanted to learn the carriers. I learned that, got it down, got some money in the bank to where when I went to buy my mortgage protection leads, I call it a lead bank, where I've got a certain amount of money that I don't ever want my lead bank to go below.
Sure.
If I buy $2,000 worth of leads, after I buy them $2,000 worth of leads, I don't want my lead bank to be broke. So once I got money in my lead bank to where no matter when I bought leads, that I had money left over to where I could buy leads for a month if I wanted to. You see what I'm saying? And
Sure.
once I got there, that's when I started buying the mortgage protection. And I don't suggest that for everybody, but that was the way I did it, and it worked out very, very well with me. It kept me from ever getting under a financial stress or anything like that.
For sure. For sure. Well, that's awesome. I mean, so obviously, a solid half of your production was just on, final expense. And
Yeah.
you said a lot of really great stuff in that. I want to break it down a little bit because you really poured on a lot. Obviously, so you really worked on mastering the final expense market first.
Mm-hmm.
While in that mastering, you isolated some markets for yourself that you felt comfortable performing in and that you
Mm-hmm.
felt worked best for you. So you just kind
Yep.
of accepted, hey, I'm going to have to go out of my way, going to have to travel. You worked it in with, obviously, it's not like you didn't have anything else going on. You got a family, you're very involved in your church and different ministries that you weren't going to miss. And you made it happen. You were very disciplined, and I'm assuming running, what was your normal appointment goal for the week? 30 appointments?
In those days, my minimum was 24. I wanted to run 24 appointments a week. If I got more, great. But at that time, I was just running 100% FaceTime leads. That was it. I didn't even know about mail-in leads. I don't even think I really knew about the CRM. Or no, I knew about the CRM, but I wasn't buying any leads off the CRM at that time just because what I was doing was working. So I just stuck with it. I just stayed with what was working and just kept on going.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing you said, and obviously I hit on a little bit already, is obviously you're traveling for these appointments.
Yep.
And no problem traveling. And that's something too, I tell people starting off, like, you're just going to have to kind of accept you're going to be driving a lot, in this
Yeah.
job. But hey, if you drive 8 hours a day, making $5,000, I was like, hey, you're for sure making way more than anyone else driving 8 hours, behind the wheel of a semi truck or, whatever it is. So that's fine with
That's
me.
it.
And then,
Hey,
and go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say the way I look at it, you're in Dallas Fort Worth area right now. One way or another, you're gonna be driving. I'd just rather be on the open road, getting somewhere where I can get from point A to point B pretty quick without being bumper to bumper traffic. So, I
Yeah.
just look at it. I'd rather just take off. Stick me in my car. Let's go somewhere. Once we get there, let's go to work.
Yeah, absolutely. You found what works for you. And then I
Yeah.
absolutely love what you said there at the end, which I found out. I'm not married, but a lot of my friends and stuff where I come into the industry are. And
Yeah.
that is something I've heard a lot, from yourself and from other uplines and from a lot of great content out there is you got to have your spouse on board with you,
Oh yeah.
especially if you're gonna build a business. This is gonna take a certain level of sacrifice, and obviously for you and your spouse had very concrete goals. It sounds like things that you wanted to accomplish, and you're like, hey honey, if we're gonna accomplish this is what the level of sacrifice looks like, and made sure that you're on the same page beforehand, before got before it became a conflict. You were looking
Right.
ahead.
That's right. That's got to be settled. Because me and my wife, we've been married 23 years, and those are things that have got to be settled, because this business, if you're running like I was running, or like I do run at times, as like last night, I didn't get home till 9:30 last night. I left in the morning about 7 and got home at 9:30 last night. And I just that's got to be understood. Now what me and my wife do, and what our family does, is, because I do believe that family time is very, very important also. So about every 3 months, and I spoke on this at the conference, I go out, and then every 3 months I'll load my wife up, my kids, and we'll go somewhere. We'll leave on a Thursday, get back on a Sunday evening, but every 3 months we'll work. It's grind time. January, February, March, that's grind time. At the end of that 3 months, we reward ourselves. We'll go out of town. We'll take a trip somewhere, go snow skiing or go to Florida or something, and spend 3 or 4 days just with the wife and kids. We get back on Sunday. Then it's time to start grinding again on Monday, because my wife and kids are in this with me. I'm not the only one out there, so it does make a difference for us. It does make a huge difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. One more question on the personal production side, going a little more into detail. Obviously, now you're running a lot of points. Are you still running the minimum of 24? What does your week look now as far as your appointments that you're running?
Right now, since I am running a lot more mortgage appointment now, a lot more mortgage protection now, and also last year my goal was to make a Hall of Fame, which that's my goal this year. But I'm also wanting to build this year. Want to really start building the team. So I started that in November of 2020. Started putting a team together to recruit and do all of that stuff. So we're getting all that ironed out. But so my goal this year is to hit the Hall of Fame and plus build. So I'm not running, and be 100% honest with you, I'm not always getting that 24 to 28 appointments a week like I was.
Sure.
I'm not always getting that, but my production's still up. My production numbers are still higher because I'm running mortgage protection and I am getting a little higher, AP on what you close. But I still want to run a minimum of 20 appointments a week, and that's what I like to hit. It's a minimum of 20 a week, and go out there, and I can run 20 a week and still hit Hall of Fame and still keep on going and still build.
Sure.
And that gives me a little bit of time to build also.
Sure. Now in the house, obviously, from going just purely final expense to now integrating mortgage protection, do you find that you're running those appointments much differently, or do you still treat it fairly the same? What's your posture when you're walking in running those appointments? How are you treating it? Has your mindset changed?
Usually, and really, I do pretty much the same thing on both appointments. A little of it may be different, but for me, I've really taken, I pretty much do the same thing when I walk into somebody's house. Of course, right now, everybody's afraid of the coronavirus. So when I walk up to their door, first thing I do is when I knock on their door, they open up that door, I hold up a mask in my hand and I say, "Hey, I'm here for our appointment. You want me to put a mask? You want me to wear a mask or not wear a mask?" At that moment right there, it's a yes or no. But it gets their mind. So whether they say yes or whether they say no, that's an invite to come on into their house. You see, I'm not, so that way, hey, my name's Kevin, got a 10 o'clock appointment with you. Would you prefer I wear a mask or not? Then it's just yes or no. I go in, build a little bit of rapport. But me, I'm pretty to the point. I build rapport from the front door to the table. And once we sit down at that table, once we get to that table, then it's business time.
Sure.
I pretty much cut the rapport off, whether it's, whether I see somebody, they got a deer head hanging on their wall, they got pictures of grandkids, whatever it is. I use that time from the front door to the table. That's my rapport building time. Once I sit down at the table, the next question I ask them is, I'll say, next thing I say, I'll say, "Hey, Bob, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to let me come over here and help get your family protected." And I say, "Bob, when you was filling this out, whether it be a Facebook or whether it be a mail-in form or whatever it is," I turn around and say, "Bob, when you was filling this out, because I want to be able to help you the best of my ability, when you was filling this out, who did you have in mind? Who is it that's going to be if something happens to you, if you don't come home tomorrow? Who's going to be left picking up the pieces of your life if you was to pass away unexpectedly? Who's that going to be? Is it going to be your wife? Is it going to be your kids or whatever it is?" And boom, they tell me that. And then the next thing I'll ask them, I'll say, "Okay, so that's going to be your beneficiary. Is that right?" They say, "Yeah." And I say, "What's their first name?" Boom, John. Okay. And I write John down. And that's my go-to from that every time. I get that. And then I go right in, "Okay, Bob, let me tell you how I'm going to help you out." As I said, my name's Kevin Alexander. I work with Family First Life. We're one of the largest providers in the nation of these mortgage protection or final expense benefits. We got, 30,000 agents nationwide. Now, the benefit to you on that, Bob, is us being so large, we do business with almost every carrier there is. So if you're wanting to get a quote, if you're wanting to get a price, if you're wanting to look around, you just ask me who it is you want to see a quote on, and I can jump on my computer here and I can get you a quote for just about anybody. Now we do business mainly with about 15 carriers because we're only going to do business with the A-rated companies. So we want to be sure that we're going to put you with the best carrier that fits your needs, whether you got health issues, whether we want certain coverages, whatever it is. But we've got access to so many different carriers that we're going to be able to get what you need that fits your needs today.
Okay.
And
very good.
That's where I lay it out, and by that time they're okay.
Sure. So pretty much, and I hear that from a lot of top producers, is your posture every time, regardless of what kind of lead it is, whether it be Facebook, final expense, whether it be mortgage mailer, whether it be instant internet, you're going in there and you're identifying the need and even a person. You're identifying a why, and then you're just setting up your position, the foundation for the meeting, and then you're taking it from there, and it all just kind of works itself. It's once you get in a rhythm, you're just going to figure out what to take it. They're kind of going to give you the pieces. Is that right? How you're doing it?
That's it, because I want to connect to them emotionally first, because most people have never really thought about that. When you ask them, say, when you die, who's going to be left picking up the pieces of your life? So most people, whether they're in an apartment, whether they're renting a house, whether they got to sell the house, no matter what it is, most people have never really thought through the process of saying, of looking around and saying, because look here, Bob, when you pass away, okay, somebody's going to have to get all this stuff out of this house. Somebody's going to have to get this house ready. Somebody's going to have to get this stuff in storage. Somebody's going to have to do all of those things that many times we don't think about. And I'll preface that many times. I'll tell them, I'll say, look, Bob, I'm going to ask you some tough questions today. And when I ask you those questions, I'm not asking those questions to be rude, but I'm asking you those questions in order so that you can help me to help you to the best of our ability. Because if I don't ask these questions, I'm not going to be able to get you the coverage that you need in order to make sure that Jan here is protected. Because after all, that's who we want to protect, is Jan, because she's going to be the one taking care of everything when you pass away, right? And so I lay it out. I tell them I'm going to ask some tough questions. And then that way, we've all heard it said that you got to be willing to get uncomfortable. You got to be willing. And it's not that you make the client uncomfortable. You got to be willing to ask the questions that make you uncomfortable. You got to be willing to do those things. So when I tell them that I'm going to ask them some tough questions, I'm gonna do that, and I'll say it's not to be rude, not to come across in any way, but I really got to ask you some of these questions in order so that you can help me to help you. And every single time they say, okay, that's fine. So now when I ask that question, it's completely removed any of the tension in the atmosphere.
Sure.
That makes sense? Because I'll look at them sometimes. I'll say, hey, Bob, remember when I said I was going to ask you one of those tough questions? He'll say, yeah. I say, okay, here comes one right here.
Well, you're making it sound really simple, man. You're making it sound like you just buy leads, you run the certain amount of appointments, you go in there, the very similar open, caring about them, figuring out what they're trying to accomplish, and it just works itself out. Kind of what we always expose from top producers. You just make it simple.
It is, and assume the sale. I don't know how, just like when we're on the phones, we say we're on the phones, you end everything perfect. Well, I'm going to be in that area tomorrow. What works better for you, before lunch or after lunch? And just about with everything that I say, somehow it's going to have wrapped up in there. I'm going to get you coverage today. We're going to get you qualified today. When we get you taken care of today. So all through that, with just about everything that I say, I'm ending it with that, to where when we get to the end, they've agreed with it so much to where it's just absolutely natural.
Right. Yeah. Same thing. People time to ask me sometimes, how do I overcome certain rebuttals? And I tell them I'm a yes, close kind of guy. I want to get to that end, and I just want to make this, this is what we're doing. Let's just do it, to where it makes so much sense. So I agree. All right. Well, transition real quick. I want to end it out. Obviously, you have built a very successful Medicare final expense business beforehand, now transitioning to vast majority life insurance. And now you just said a minute ago that you are focusing on building this year. How has that process been for you? Is it different from the Medicare pure final expense side? And what are your goals for this year specifically?
Yeah, it is a little bit different. On the Medicare side, when I built on that side, it was from what I know, we didn't have the career builders, didn't have the zip recruiters, didn't have all of those stuff back then. And really on the Medicare side, I was really, really blessed back in those days that I hired a few people that I knew, and about 5 of them just ended up being just absolute horses, you know. I mean, just by accident. If I could get a hold of find those 5 people now today, I'd go hunt them down. I've looked for them on Facebook and looked for them everywhere, and ain't been able to find them. But they were absolute horses. So that was kind of the foundation of our team. You know, I had many riders, but that was the foundation. Had 5 or 7. But right now, you know, I'm doing. I got ads running on a career builder. I've got one recruiter that works for me full time. That just calls, works the phones all day, calling and hiring and hiring and hiring. So we started in, I said November. November is when I flew out to Boca Raton, Florida, and spent the day with Sean and Nick Ayala and Eric Anthony, and just went through some things with them. So I really got our recruiter going, I guess, probably after Christmas. Well, actually, the first of this year, really, be 100% honest with you. So got her going the first of this year. So really, we're just now getting that pipeline full of people coming in. I guess last month I probably had 5 new riders in February. So we had about 5 new riders. I had another rider today that
Nice.
wrote his first deal today. So really, my goal is on my recruiter to have her to hire about 20 to 25 people a week. I'd like to see 8, I'd like to see about 100 people a month, 80 to 100 people a month, because hopefully out of that, I can get 5 to 10 riders out of that a month that are putting business on the books. So we're really focused. We're tweaking that right now on the hiring and getting that going, and getting the agents in the field, getting those going, working with my upline on how to get the agents in the field and get them going just as soon as possible. So that's where we're at. That's where we're working right now. And I figure in another 3 months, by the time we really get good at it on our end, by the time I get my recruiter clicking. I'm hiring another lady that's going to be doing nothing but follow up. So everybody that my recruiter brings in, everybody that goes, she'll be grabbing a hold of them, walking them through the contracting phase and all that, and staying in touch with them on a regular basis so none of them fall through the cracks. So that's what we're implementing right now. So I'm excited. Our goal is to get to $1 million a month within the next 12 months. That's what we want to do. So that's what we're working towards. So basically, whatever we got to do, that was another conversation with the wife. Hey, whatever we got to do in order to get this $1 million a month going, if we got to hire 3 recruiters, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to hire 3 recruiters. And we're working on that and building whatever it takes to get to where we need to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good stuff, man. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. I know that normally we start a little bit late today. If anyone has, I just want to make time for 1 or 2 quick questions. I normally like to open it up for questions at the end.
And I'm fine. I don't have an appointment till 3 o'clock, so I got a little bit of time.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So does any one of our group have a question here? I'm waiting to see some hands pop up. No, I'm not seeing them. All right. Well, Kevin, if you had any, obviously, we have everything from people who are brand new to people who are crushing it, building teams. If you had a parting shout that you feel like would be good for all of those people, what would it be?
Don't give up. You don't give up. You have this business. You got to have a strong mindset in this business. So you've got to prepare your mind. You've got to have the right kind of thoughts. I believe in this business, everybody has got the ability to make it, but not everybody's got the heart to make it. And so, you have got to train your mind. Don't give up, because so many times, we come into this business, and I had a phone call yesterday from a guy that sold his first policy today. And he called me yesterday, and he called a few leads. Of course, he got hung up on, got cussed at. And he said, Kevin, he said, man, these people are hanging up on me, cussing me out, all that. I said, all right, call me. So he called me. I went through a phone script with him, and he called me back and said, hey, since I talked to you, I booked 3 appointments. Then he went out and sold one of those today. Hey. So the main thing is if you feel your mind wandering, If you feel your mind getting weak, if you feel your mind telling you this is not for you, these leads are horrible, the clients are horrible, the business is horrible, FFL's horrible, everything's horrible, we're all just horrible. You have got to get a hold of that right now. That is a downward spiral that will take you down, and it'll lead you away from everything that you will ever want to accomplish in your life. You have got to get around people that will lift you up. You've got to get around people that will encourage you. You've got to get around people that tell you not to quit. If you're hanging around people, and that goes for your spouse also. If your spouse ain't in this 100% and he or she gets mad and gets upset, I mean, you've got to have that talk. You have got, my wife will not even send me a notification of a cancellation, a notification of a chargeback when I'm in the field. She won't do it. All of my chargebacks go to my wife. You know why? I don't want to see it. When I'm out here in the field, I'm not out in the field to take care of chargebacks. I'm out in the field to sell policies. So you got to get your mind right. Get you some, listen to some, if you're somebody likes to listen to motivational speakers, listen to it. I pay $17 a month on an app on my phone just so I can listen to motivational speakers and all of that stuff. You've got to keep your mind right. And that's it. The enemy wants you to fail. The enemy wants you to quit. The enemy wants you to give up. And we cannot allow our mind to be conformed to this world. We must be transformed by the renewing of our mind. If you can start thinking a different way, you can start walking, talking, acting, and living a different way. But your body's only going to follow the way that you think. Change your thinking, change your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's incredibly powerful. Perfect shout out. We hear it all the time. Mentality is the biggest part of this whole gig. The way that you think it's gonna make you, it's gonna break you.